Okay, thus begins the second lore party, the turn. This is probably going to be split into two different sessions, but because of attendance. But we have story bead number 3, which is the team's mascot, Bison Spud Pig, which a certain class of professional and fan are calling Tatanka Tater Bacon, or is going through a surreal experience, or something surreal is happening with the mascot. And last session we did not go through. That wasn't a great example of the role play because we were sort of explaining the conflicts as they were happening, and it took quite a bit of time. So we only got through 3 or 4 major conflicts, and usually in a session we'll get through 20 or 30. So that's something that to think about. But yeah, so the scheduling is a big thing. I want to figure out the best way to schedule, and I can't find a third-party app that allows us to kind of go in and select time blocks from a group of people. Calendly doesn't do that, Google Calendars doesn't do it, so we're going to have to build one, which is fine. That'll be built into our system of integration. Regarding the lore wrangling and lore mastering, what I've done for the lore mastering, and this is a really fun research process. I go into the locality of the team during the year, so lore mastering 1939 Manhattan Pantaloons. I don't think I came up with any story beats for the Pantaloons yet. I'm pretty sure their page is just still in a copy pasta position. Yeah, just the story beats coming soon, and then they have their what happened during the season schedule. So 1939 Manhattan Pantaloons. The role play starts off in January 1939, just like it does in Boston. And the way that I put together the adventures is I go through. I just go into the year. I go into the locality. And I look for interesting things that happened, maybe political situations, inventions. The only thing that we're ridding ourselves of is the sporting events. We're replacing the sporting events with our fiction. So everything else is real, and we can look into the locality. We call it the cosmo-local approach because we're tying all of these local stories that otherwise, when I got into the Columbus Dutch story, the guys that invented water treatment were 2 guys called the Hoover brothers, and they did this in Columbus, Ohio in like the 1920s. And I never knew that before, so this was a really fun process for me where I'm learning things about history that I wouldn't otherwise know because I'm including them in our process. And so I've done a lot of that in most of the lore chapters I've set up. I think I've set up 4 of them so far. I want to leave room for the lore masters that come in, but I do have to demonstrate product. And then there's some adventures, like the one we're doing now, that have, just goofy. So, and then, what's really fun is well, I guess to kind of, to wrap it up on the time commitment issue, a lot of the time commitment from the lore wrangler and the lore master is their own time, which is just prep work. It's fun stuff. To me, this isn't work. It's work as far as I do it 16 hours a day, but it's fun stuff. That part of the work I really look forward to. It's the data entry that drives me nuts. So lore master is going to go into 1939 Manhattan Pantaloons, and they're going to look at real history. And they're going to come up with 20 to 25. Well, it would be 18 to 23 adventures, because 2 of the adventures are sort of scheduled by the game. And those adventures can be anything. They can be, as long as, within our quality assurance construct, age appropriate 11 and up. And you know me, I push the boundaries to about where I think they can go. And then that's that. So, but outside of that, there's going to be real history. There's going to be opportunities to celebrate innovation, celebrate otherwise obscure people in history. That's the real thing. Like the guys who invented the water treatment, and then the other another story we have going on in the Chicago Red Beans is the team was founded by these two merchants that were fundamental to food processing workers getting unionized. So these are kind of the things that we get to celebrate in our show that you really don't get to tie into a lore of a TV show. And that's what we're really trying to do, is make it an experience where we're learning, we're providing a material to learn from, but also to grow with and add to. And the bulk of the process to set up a chapter is done within your own time and your own construct. Once the chapter is set up, with our system, you as the developer, once you have your whitelist for your characters, you don't actually have to do anything after that. Like your active setup, your effort is put into developing the kind of the story of the game for each chapter as we go forward in the chronology, and then facilitating the whitelist. Now, we would love if every developer at scale comes in and makes a character themselves. I think that's fundamental to the experience, that the developers working with their whitelist, and we call them sponsored lore producers. And then you guys go on the adventure together. So what we're in the process of figuring out is how to button up the group schedule to set up a lore party across, or to set up 7 lore parties in 3 weeks across a group of 16 people. So that's a bit tricky. Part of it is you need to have the experience be an anchor entertainment experience in their life, so they look forward to it and make room for it, just like they would an episode of Game of Thrones. And ultimately, all of our lore parties should be about that length, about an hour. I don't think most of them, if they're people like us, we're not going to want to be here for 3 hours role-playing. So, we did that last time. I didn't want to go that hard last time. So, let me see if Erin's available to pop in here. She's online, and we can get going. But yeah, so to recap, the recap was really easy. I didn't even have to watch the clip back, but I'm going to read it off what I typed. Where is that bad boy? Okay. So, 1939, Boston Potatoes. The head coach, Allison Julia Narling, and both assistant coaches, Erin Pooh Kellogg and Bella Eliza Victoria Wingate, 2 bench players, Gerard Hercules Liggett and Augusta Charlotte Oliver, a college professor, Linus Heinrich O'Shouts, a dude who makes basketballs, a ballsmith, Felix Ivan Hostetter, and the filter of another team, Kerry Ergen Strong, in town so you didn't miss out on the first ever BSofA Media Day, all witnessed the team's mascot, Bison Spud Pig, also known by some in potatoes culture as Tatanka Tater Bacon, act crazy. I lost my mid-Atlantic accent or whatever. So, whatever, transatlantic accent, I can get back into it. Anyway, Bison Spud Pig is a baked potato, a buffalo, and a pig, all rolled into one chimeral avatar that represents the Boston potatoes, the power element of Earth, and the basketball god of Capricorn itself. Our cast of 8 characters all introduce themselves to each other in a small pocket of peace and calm amidst the hullabaloo of the first ever Media Day and Fan Fest on January 23rd, 1939 in Boston, Massachusetts. The mascot was doing flips and acting more athletic than any potato player at Media Day and Fan Fest, all while shouting gibberish at the top of their lungs. During this time, our unlikely gathering of characters discuss amongst themselves what they're witnessing. Gerard Liggett, overall pretty sour about his roster position, suggests the mascot may be an imposter, with the real performer tied up in a closet somewhere. The group agrees based on the ambition of his argument, which was most heavily supported by both head coach Allison Narling and assistant coach Bella Wingate. Erin Kellogg and Felix Hostetter are both missing during the mascot's antics, but about 10 minutes after, both reappear, sweating profusely and looking suspicious. With prying eyes focused on these two, Erin claims, without prompting, that he's absolutely not the mascot. Felix does not confirm or deny, instead saying, "Why would I be the imposter when I've got all these high-quality balls to service?" That was word for word what Bree said. Felix then confirms that the mascot is indeed an imposter. Being so familiar with the equipment around the team, Felix announces that a piece of the costume is missing. Gerard, astute as ever, notices that the sour cream portion of Bison Spud Pig is missing. A large dollop of Crumb Core Foods' popular sour cream brand, Creamazy. The merit of his observation holds true, as verified by Kerry Strong, the filter of the Los Angeles Wet Fountains, who made the trip to Boston. Based on the observable facts of the immediate situation, Erin accuses Felix of stealing the suit, and Felix accuses Erin of the same thing. Folks say the court of public opinion is the strongest. What about the court of potato opinion? Felix's dedication to his beliefs won the group over, and we wrap our 1939 Boston Potatoes, The Hook, Lore Party 1 of 7, with the following questions. Who is the mascot? Are they truly an imposter? If so, who is the imposter? If so, where is the real mascot, and who are they? Why are they so bizarre while entertaining fans? What happened to the Cream-Azy? Where is the Cream-Azy? Why is the mascot a buffalo baked potato pig chimera? Who came up with Bison Spud Pig? Who came up with Tatanka Tater Bake? Is there drama amongst potato culture around the official name versus the fan pet name? Why is the mascot of potato-based athletic fever dreams scream-shouting gibberish? Starch up and tate on. Taters gon' tate. Alright, so that was the recap. And normally I'd have to watch back the lore party and like gather all different impacts and decisions into one thing, but this was so buttoned up and small, we were able to wrangle it really cleanly. So from there, our three characters are still in media day. We're not exactly moving on to the game schedule, which happens 10 days after. So let me get back to my chat here. Is 3 weeks to do all the parties a fixed time frame? I mean, it's up to y'all, but the thing is, we do a cement approach, a first come first served cement approach. So if if everybody has the same 3 weeks in a story bead, we're all kind of working with the same kind of fairness in the time. So right now we're doing story bead number 3, and we launched a week ago. When was that? The 24th. So we're supposed to be wrapped by April 14th, and that just gives a really nice window of time to tell the story and to make sure everybody kind of has the same framework of like this is it's enough time to create memories and create a community experience, but it's also not like a heavy commitment over, you know, months and months and months. So if somebody just wants to come into that one party, do their or come into that one bead and do all 7 parties, maybe do one party, create their impact. It's up to them. For you, as somebody looking for sponsored lore producers, it's in your best interest to whitelist people that are going to show up to every party and maximize their use of your property. Because you could plug in a bunch of people that are going to show up to one party for 10 minutes and create their impact, go shoot a meme, and then they don't come back, and that's going to weaken your your development angle in the lore. So you can be as specific and exact as you want to be in forming your whitelist. That is, it's your property. You can be, you know what I'm saying. There's no discrimination there. It's your stuff. So I think what we have set up for you in Manhattan is and you can adjust this as you need, but we have 25 characters over 10 years of lore, and you're anchoring all 10 years with 20 different story beads. Now, you said that you would like to do this with your community, which I encourage. That sounds like a great time. You come together and ask people to bring research points from 1939 New York, 1938, 1939, that kind of frame of time. And then you guys all discuss what kind of stories you want to maximize within the context of this game, and then that's how you can put together your beads. And then you put, I always say, throw some goofy and fun ones in there. A monster lives in the sewers. You know what I mean? Like, there's just give the role players something weird too, just in case figuring out who the audience is to participate. This is something I'm going to do in LA maybe this week, but definitely next week. We're going to host an event, like a Come Create Your Character event. And I think that's a great style of event for any lore master to hold for their chapter, or for anybody that we're trying to whitelist. So, I hadn't thought of if a lore master tries to charge to then whitelist, but that charging mechanic would be competing with our sticker price. And our sticker price is very accessible. So I hope people don't do that. That said, yeah, the best thing is to find people that are fundamentally interested in storytelling this way, and I do think a lot of people are. I think this is really fun. where we're kind of in a goofy storyline, but we could very well be doing the, that one arch bridge in Boston that was built around the time. That's one of our story beats. So there's going to be a group of characters that are exploring the impact of building this bridge in Boston in 1939, and all of it's tied together with the anchor point of this fictional basketball team. But that's really just another character. Let's see. I'm trying to organize my thoughts here because I do ADHD all the time. I go sideways. The commitment of time for the lore master is mainly prep and then facilitating the community. But once you have your community facilitated, if you don't want to actively roleplay a character, you don't have to. If you don't want to actively be in meetings and guiding the storytelling process, you absolutely don't have to. Now, the people that are purchasing enough property to develop to be a lore wrangler, those are the people that are saying, "Oh, I actively want to have creative control over the lore party process." So we had I'm anticipating a lot of people coming over from Dungeons and Dragons, and even though our game is really different, but that's part of why I think they're going to come over, is just to experience a different kind of role play. And then on top of that, there's a lot of folks that are coming from that angle that really like to control the story. They call them dungeon masters in that game. So I'm saying, okay, the dungeon masters, if you want a dungeon master an adventure, come in, buy 7 pieces of the show, make sure that your character can go 7 seasons, and then you can lore wrangle every season if you want. And that helps us as a game, because we need lore wranglers, but we want the committed community members to take that creative control. So in your chapter, you won't be able to necessarily curate lore wranglers. That is a first come first served process. So if somebody purchases 7 pieces and they register in Manhattan as a lore wrangler, that's awesome. They have to choose one of your story beats. That's sort of the creative control dynamic there. So your creative control in developing the chapter and to best set up your characters is the way to think about it. Is to find the most interesting stories to tell within the context of 1939 New York, or 1939, and that's a wide thing, right? There's you're not limited to specifically New York. Characters can be from wherever. The story can go wherever. It just is all tied together by this fictional basketball team. We have a prospective lore master for the Yonkers Highness, which is a YouTube channel called Heavy Spoilers. We're still explaining crypto to people, right? So this is a very weird sales process. But let's say Paul comes in, that's his name, and he comes in and does the same package you did, and he's got the first 10 years of the Yonkers Highness. Well, now you guys are kind of a sister symbiotic story. We already know what the championships are won, and so we don't actually control any of those elements. Those are all pregnant monkeys. Part of that is fantasy basketball, fantasy sports already exist, and if people want to go try to win championships and compete in that, that's already a product. So our product is different. We explain why wins and losses happened, why teams were good and bad, etc. Now the Pantaloons, I don't know if you noticed, they have a string of championships in the 50s. They win in 53, 57, and 59. So this is what I'm anticipating, and I don't want you to anchor anything down before, because I'll just say, hey, you have first rights on any subsequent lore chapters. But as we develop the first 10 years of Manhattan lore, which is going to take a while, at minimum it'll be 6 months to get through all 10 of those chapters. But wait, no, that's not accurate. I think it'd be 8 months to get through all 10 of those chapters in sequence. So this is a process. The lore game for the basketball world is probably going to take 2.5 years once we're running full scale. The season 1 of Press Pass will finish 9 to 10 months after we're funded completely. So the lore game for the basketball world, that provides the lore for all 8 seasons of our material show that we're putting on screen. So there's the season 1 lore game and the season 1 of the TV show. They are the same season, but season 2 and season 3 and season 4, season 5, season 6, season 7, season 8 of the TV show are all drawing their lore from the season 1 lore game. if that makes sense. Because Season 2 lore game, we move on to a different sport, but that comes in um, after we finish wrapping basketball. So once basketball's all wrapped up, all 73 years of lore for every team have been completed through this process, that's when we open up the football world. And then we do the same thing. Then once that's done, we open up the hockey world and continue the franchise. And what you'll find is that everybody who is developing property, one is it's really interesting content dynamic, because a lore master who has 25 pieces of 5-minute memes is essentially able to put together a 125-minute feature film about the story that they're telling with their community, which is incredible. That's it. So that's that. Like filmmakers, yeah, everything's kind of designed to work out really well mathematically. So filmmakers who come in to develop a chunk and are really about content maximization in this, they're going to make sure every piece is 5 minutes, and they're going to make sure it all operates in a sequence to tell the united story like a feature film would, and that's going to be epic. And if a package like that comes out to be so good that it has to see a theatrical release, then of course we're going to do that. We're not, you know what I'm saying? So I think that should be one of the quality goals of every developer, is to say, okay, I really want each lore chapter that I'm doing, the 5-minute memes, they don't have to be 5 minutes explicitly, but you have 5 minutes per meme that you put in the archive per piece that you have in the show. So for each chapter, 25 pieces, 25 memes, 25 characters, etc. I want the best possible content quality coming from my community. So that's where you, as the developer, come up with your own standards of quality. Now, your standards of quality are more or less applied to the entire lore chapter of all the owners that are developing their characters. But you know, nobody has a central approval point over memes. I guess I kind of do, but I'm not like, I don't weaponize procedure. I talk about that a lot, or like wield authority as a tyrant. It's just, my rule is ages is 11 and up. If you push the boundary farther than I've pushed, we're gonna have to reel it back. But I don't think you or Bree or Bree, I have questions about Felix Hotstead. I don't think Hyang is going to be pushing any boundaries past 11 and up. Can you share a link that talks about the meme specifically? There's a video that we create. Yes, let's do that. Migsy and I are currently working on a comprehensive guide to this experience that's step by step and explains everything. So the early beta things, this is helping us. Our first roleplay experience helped us a lot. This is great. So since it's just us,
every time I think I know what's going on, I'm like, wait a minute, what are the memes?
I'll summarize it real quick. In fact, let me put a screenshot of the summary, because this is great. It's a 3-point, the puzzle piece is a property, and each puzzle piece is a 3-point development process. The first point of development is to create or claim a character, and you've done that with, you've claimed Augusta, and then Aline, I named her, but you know, if you want to rename her, go for it. I'm not, you know what I'm saying. So you claimed those two characters. So you've completed point 1 of that development process for those two pieces. Now that point can never be repeated for those two pieces. That's a singular use. You've also registered your characters to 1939 Boston Potatoes lore with those pieces. That registration is used for your custody one time, but if you sell the piece to somebody else, that registration can recycle. And then the last point of development is to roleplay the character, create impact in the story, and then make a piece of content about the impact that you've created. Now in your Boston Potatoes, since you have 2 pieces in the potatoes, or 2 pieces in the wallet that you're managing the potatoes characters with, technically that wallet would be able to submit 2 7-second memes for Augusta and Aline if you have impact moments for them that you want to put into content. Now the difference is the lore master can make up to 5-minute pieces of content, and then everybody else has to make 7 seconds or less. Part of that is a joke. There's an offense in basketball called the 7 seconds or less offense, but also I kind of want the Vine mechanic in our memes. in our archive, flashbacks and references, really short, really quick hitting bits and quips. So if people want to do more comprehensive content, they should commit further to the property. So this is great stuff. Why don't I just go through this page here on the lore producer, and then you can ask me any questions you have, Kianga. And Bree, I think this is going to be more. I think we're going to be here for another half hour, and we'll probably just be doing this, kind of explaining things that we have questions about, and we'll postpone the actual party till we have a full scheduled response. But I think what I will do is I will just schedule the remaining lore parties up to the 14th, and then if any schedule conflicts come up, we can adjust. But I think for now, that's what I'm going to do. In the future, we need to have a calendar. When people register their characters, they select their times, their windows of availability, and AI will sync that and put the lore parties together for you. So that answers the other question of, do you have to wrangle everybody's schedule? Hell no. No. I'm trying to build an interface where people just go into like a Google Calendar style interface, they select their availability, and then AI will spit out the best schedule for everybody who's registered to that lore party. And, there might be, what do you envision people submitting for the content? This is awesome. I'm so glad you asked. So first, I don't know if you know this. I hope you do, because this is part of what value assures the product. I don't know what you're talking about. Felix is a professional ballsmith, sir. So, Kianga, I role-played a character already into the lore of Real Pro Basketball. The character's name is #LensFace, and he's like a social media influencer that deliberately makes content as bad as the team. And this is one of the main characters in our sitcom. So our sitcom is sort of like The Office mixed with a sports documentary, and the sitcom takes place from 2012 to 2020. The premise that we're all enjoying right now is that the sitcom is supposed to be about my coming up and we open up the pilot of the sitcom with the premise that this documentary is about this kid who was born on crack and came up in foster care, was kicked out, and somehow still made it to be a media professional in the BSofA. And by the time the story ends, I don't want to spoil anything, but basically the documentary itself is a part of what we're all doing here. So the rights of the documentary end up in the hands of the character LensFace, which is me. So the fictional canon of the show's production is also what we're participating in. So my fictional character ends up with the rights to the show that we're making, but I don't have all of the lore of the BSofA, all of the archival content, all of that's lost. So I have to find a team of interested people to help me discover the lore of the Basketball Syndicate of America. And you guys are the interested people. So when you look at I'm going to go back to the version 1 clip. Oh, by the way, there's 119 episodes of LensFace over 5 years. And all of it was material, like content-wise, I wanted the content to be as bad as the team that was on the floor. That was my joke. And so it's very hard to watch. But I get a kick out of it. When I put the link, that's the meme of production, the version 1. And this is the sort of meme kind of thing that we're expecting to be in the archive. Is exactly what I put as the concept of the execution. There's 9 layers of meaning to it, but beyond that, the character is front and center. He is telling a story it's a bookend story that encapsulates a 10-year career, and the joke of it is that the career doesn't improve, like the quality of the environment does not improve from frame 1 to the last frame, and then that finishes off with a "what happened" kind of thing. When we ask what happened, we're not just asking what happened in his career to set up people's interest in the sitcom, but we're asking what happened in the lore. We don't know. You were actually looking at getting a 60-sided die to help me decide the Klaus skill in Zishan. Well, check this out. this website I use is free, and it does exactly that. Here, I'll put it in here. randomnumbergenerator.org. All you do is you do 1 to 60, and basically what I do for the character tree is, 1 to 20 is clout, 21 to 40 is skill, 41 to 60 is Zesian. And now you have your RNG facet generator, and that's a great way to onboard because a lot of people aren't going to know how to choose their levels to start. Also, it's sort of an arbitrary process, unless somebody really maximizes one facet and goes like, "Oh, I'm 19 ambition." Hey, that's a bold choice. So let's get into the content. So anyway, the esoteric canon we're all participating in is the story of the show is that this documentary is being made about this character. The character ends up with the rights to the documentary, and now we are all researching the lore and discovering the lore of this character's documentary that he's putting together. Which would, I know it's a little bit odd. So that's why we call the property developers lore producers. So a lore producer has a role in the lore game. It refers to individuals, groups, or platforms that greenlight the show by collecting and collaborating in the scalable intellectual property puzzle. To become a lore producer, an individual or organization must collect their puzzle pieces. They create their character, or they can create their character, add to lore chapters in the game. They register that character with our DAO, and a page will be added to the wiki. In fact, I did add Felix's page. I don't know if Migsy updated it yet, because he said he was going to. No, it doesn't look updated, but his picture's up! So there you go. I'll take care of that this evening. Let me get back to this thing. Okay, so beyond all the technical mumbo-jumbo and the math of the puzzle, there's 3 types of content that we accept for the meme creation. So the process is, I'm going to use Augusta specifically. So you embody Augusta to come into the story. You're role-playing with the community, and you're trying to create impact. So you're finding a conflict that you want to introduce, and if your conflict wins, that you've created impact, and now you have a moment that you can go create content about as a meme. Now your meme can be original footage where it's you, Kianga, or whoever you cast as Augusta Oliver in 1939, or maybe at some point in the future, talking about that impact moment. And this is really easy. Think of The Office, right? You know how they do the cutaways, where the person's just sitting and the wall's behind them and their head's just staring directly at the camera, and they describe the moment that happened. That's easy. Everybody can do that. And you can and that setup is standard for Parks and Rec and The Office and those sorts of sitcoms. So that one is going to be that's going to be our standard kind of. When people, because a lot of people aren't filmmakers, they don't know how to make a film, but they can set up their phone, sit in a chair, and then say a line that they wrote, about their moment. And then more serious folks are going to do actual filmmaking approaches to these moments in 1939 and really make it look like the footage is from 1939. And so we call that style, that approach, original footage. We do have some guidelines for that, like the cast member must appropriately reflect the intersections of the character. So, like, I could play Aaron Pooh Kellogg in a meme because he's my age and he looks like me. Yeah, I did that on purpose. But I couldn't play my other character in 1939, Annette Monuments, because she's a 6'10" Jamaican woman. So I can't personally play her and represent Annette Monuments in original footage. It doesn't make any sense. The goal for original footage is always quality and authenticity. So if I'm making a clip that's supposed to look like it's from 1939, it has to have that sort of texture and visceral material to it, and that feel, the sound, everything. The one caveat is, in our world, the selfie camera's existed since 1919. It was invented in World War I, and that just makes it easier for everybody to create content. It's so stupid, but I'm like, yeah, let's just make the vertical selfie camera like a thing since 1919. And we'll just, for accessibility purposes, Then we have the reenactment coverage. This is where you are pretending to be a media member that is a different character. So you want to register the media member character as a different character. This is where non-playable characters come in. So if you come in and you're saying, okay, my moment happened in 1939, but I personally would like to play a media character in 1982 that is talking about this moment on a news broadcast. You can absolutely do that. That's a really fun way to handle different approaches to these moments, because when you have the reenactment coverage, the sort of media coverage of you can do whatever you want. You can say, hey, I'm in 2012, when the show starts, and and I'm talking about this original moment in 1939. Or it can be a media of the day, the contemporary media, 1939 media, where you register like a radio guy, and then you describe the impact moment that your other character created. There's all sorts of ways to set up content. The last one, this is my favorite one. This is wide open. It's artistic reenactment. And my neighbor he's trying to figure out he's trying to figure out what character to add to the game for himself. And 1930, he's trying to go into 1939 San Francisco buoys, and we have a storyline there where the World Fair is happening. And so he's trying to angle a character that's like a Swedish sausage maker at the World Fair. And he was asking me, because he's a very kind of surreal artist, he's like, if I could, what you're saying is I could film a clip of myself holding up a paper plate saying, this is a sausage maker, and then submit that to the show. I said, yeah, of course. Absolutely, if that's what he wants to do. I personally think that there's opportunities in context where that could be very funny. And, because you think about a documentary cutting to somebody who's holding up a paper plate and saying it's something that it's not, and then flashing artistic reenactment across the bottom of the screen. That's super funny to me. So I can't wait to see how many angles that goes. And the other side of that is animations are fine. Audio is fine. You know how in documentaries they do the audio bars and they play audio? People can do that. If that's what they want to submit for their meme, they can do that. Really, the content is wide open, but the way we put it together that's kind of our secret sauce. So when people watch episode 1, the pilot episode of Press Pass, I think we're going to see quite a few memes from the Boston Potato, because I want that to be symbiotic. And then 2, we'll have 30 to 40 memes from the audience archive in the episode. And everybody whose meme is used gets paid from a bounty system. If you've developed the meme from a property hold position, you get 35% of the bounty, and then your sponsored lore producer would get 65% of the bounty for that issuance. And that's why we call this a community wealth ecosystem, because the people you're plugging in you're very much plugging into real world incomes if their content is quality enough to achieve any of the monetization points. So, and there's no guarantees that it is, but the ultimate thing, like you said, and I really honor what you said earlier. The main thing for the people we're looking for, the type of person that you are, is a person that wants to develop the highest quality experience for themselves, for their team, and the highest quality result in that chapter. So knowing the goofiness of our world with the basketball gods and the power elements, and our surreal bison spud pig story, but then we also synthesized the very real, the Hoover brothers invented, I forgot the name, but lime treatment of water in 1928 in Columbus, Ohio. That can feed into the story. You can have a whole adventure based on celebrating that specific point in history, where we're all coming in and creating impact, and the pregnant monkey would be that point in history happened. But with every story, we don't know the meat and potatoes of it, so that's what we're getting involved in, and developing the meat and potatoes. And anytime there's an impact, it can be super benign. My dad, he's 73 years old. He can't wait to come in here and put peanut butter in a player's shoes and have that be a reason somebody lost a game. I'm like, okay. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's awesome. So let's use that moment. Let's say he comes in with his character, he wins a conflict interaction. And now Augusta Oliver has peanut butter in her shoes for a game, and the Potatoes lose because she like turns the ball over in the last minute or something. So he's the pregnant monkey is the Potatoes lose, and we have the game log. Augusta Oliver turns the ball over, but the impact moment is decided through the community storytelling. Oh, well, the reason why that happened is because she had peanut butter in her shoes, or because a bat flew through the arena, or because an earthquake happened. There's all sorts of different ways you can go. And we're doing that within our sports context, and then also within the fiction or within the history. So we get to celebrate the history, but then kind of tie in elements of fantasy and elements of fiction. I did check to see if working with names like Vincent Astor and Duke Ellington and Noble Sissel are fine, and it's absolutely fine. We can have them be characters. We can have them be developed characters by customers. There's a certain cutoff, like people born after, like if they're alive today, that's a no-no. And then if they're born after 1949, I believe, it's 75 years. Anyway, so yeah, integration with historical points of note is very exciting. How many different ones did I put in Boston? I don't think I went too heavy on the I did go real deep in LA and in San Francisco for the history points because I know a lot about them. What do we have here? Oh yeah, the construction of a new bridge in Boston inadvertently unearths a time capsule from the early 19th century, sparking citywide interest and inspiring the Potatoes to create their own time capsule. This is a really fun story beat because the bridge happened, so we get to explore the construction of the bridge. We unearth a time capsule from the early 1800s, which is awesome, right? So now you're planting a bunch of seeds like what's in the time capsule. So now you have that's its own world of adventure of what's in the time capsule. And that sparks citywide interest, and it inspires the team to create their own time capsule in 1939 for somebody maybe in 2009 to uncover when we get to that point in the chapter. So I think in 1939 the time capsule bead should be. I'm not going to be a tyrant about it, but I am suggesting to lore masters in 1939, like, try to replicate that in some way, where you guys uncover a time capsule from earlier during a construction project that actually really happened, and then you create a time capsule for the future. That's a really fun one. Now, when we're role-playing characters, we can recycle the characters through different beads as long as the lore chapter's happening. So that means that if somebody really wants to sit here and do 8 different story beads because they're staggered enough where they can actually go into every lore party and all different 8 story beads, they can do that. Now it's quite a bit of time, and they're gonna have an advantage in leveling their character because they're going to be involved in so many more different conflicts and moments of impact. But that's because they've committed the time to do that. That's up to the people who have the characters and are developing the characters. I think the standard experience, the standard customer experience, is to get the character, register for lore chapter, come do all 7 parties over a 3-week span, kind of like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday kind of thing for 2 weeks, and then a Sunday wrap party. They go to each party for 10 to 60 minutes. As a scalable developer, you're going to want people that go for 60 minutes. But somebody who just purchases one piece of property and they're coming in, they're saying, okay, I don't have that much time, but I do have 10 minutes today. So I can come in there and create impact with my 10 minutes and then go make a moment, sit down on a chair and talk to the camera about the moment, submit that to the archive. Once it's approved, it goes up. Now I'm working on, with our developers right now, on a smart contract specifically for our memes, because I don't want to use a third-party marketplace contract for the memes. They don't have any developmental qualities, so we can use our own contract for that. Integration with points of note is very exciting. What else do we have in Boston? Oh, we can do combination story beads too. In fact, this is interesting since you're lore master for Potatoes. actually planted one. Story beat 11 in Boston is a series of self-absorbed misunderstandings leads to an escalating prank war between characters from the Boston Potatoes and the Manhattan Pantaloons. So that's going to be very interesting. That was the one seed I kind of planted to see how a cross-network lore collaboration would work, because obviously the Potatoes were in control over what pranks we do, and the Pantaloons are in control over what pranks they do. So that'll be interesting to see how that works out. And the Potatoes will probably be finished first, so we do a yes and additive approach to story cement, where if the Potatoes finish their, setting our lore up for what pranks we did first, well, the Pantaloons kind of have an advantage, because you guys know what the pranks, and now you guys can set up the response pranks, and you have the comedic advantage. So the people coming later kind of do have some comedic advantage, but we don't do. I was just writing it up today. Our approach is all cement based. The pregnant monkey, the cement. So anything that we create, everything we created in the last lore party is cement, meaning that it can't be crumbled or acidified or retconned. A great example was the bison spud pig name, right? That's a cement name, and Bree, we worked that out really great. The Hollywood approach would be to pour acid. So they'd come in, they'd pour acid on the cement, they'd make me change the name, and now the previous labor that I put into that particular story, where I wrote a song and all these things, that's tossed aside. Instead, we shape it with an additive approach, where the mascot name is a cement detail, but the Tatanka Tater Bacon suggestion now becomes a perspective on the story, where now a group of characters, and you can convince all the characters to call them Tatanka Tater Bacon and drown out the official name. I don't care, right? So that's the thing. That's not acid. That's additive. I may not like it, but you're still adding on to the original cement of the story. And if I don't like it, I have to position my character to create impact that changes the story back to something that I am. You know what I mean? But for me, I'm very low stakes. I'm ready to go with the flow of the story to see wherever it goes, because what we did on Sunday was already pretty wild. When I was imagining bison spud pig, I did not imagine a baked potato buffalo pig. That's hilarious. The neighborhood nickname of bison spud pig. Ooh! And see, now, even there, you could go all sorts of ways. Bree, you could go that the imposter mascot is you know what I'm saying? There's all sorts of ways you can go. We don't have enough characters to actually do any combat right. We need one more. I'm working on it, but it's also 4:30 and I wanted to kind of have a buttoned-up meeting today, have a buttoned-up party. So what we'll do is if we need to extend the story bead by a week to go to the 21st of April, we can do that. And we can actually work on a community schedule system for the analog phase, because I have a feeling the Manhattan Pantaloons, at least the first chapter or two, are going to launch in the analog phase, and then by the time we get to chapter 3 or 4, we should have our digital interface and our gamepads ready. Let me get back to the lore producer here. So we have, just to recap, if you have less than 25 pieces of the puzzle, you're making lore memes, which are 7 seconds or less, and you make one meme for every piece you have. If you have more than 25 pieces of the puzzle, your memes can be 5 minutes, and they become lore scenes, and then once again, one scene for every piece that you have. The scenes and memes have 3 different content classifications. And you guys know me by now. I find initialisms and acronyms like funny concepts. So when I make you say an initialism or an acronym, it's going to be stupid. Anyway, original footage is OFU, reenactment coverage is NACO, and artistic reenactment is RNAC. So just bear with me. I love making fun of stupid jargon. So it's also sort of an experiment to see how widespread our stupid jargon can actually spread. So the goal for original footage, always quality and authenticity. People shouldn't be making footage as though it comes from 1939 unless their goal is to match the quality and authenticity of the chapter. Because there's so many options. If they're going to troll and do a troll approach, definitely go artistic reenactment. You can do anything you want. You can do animation. You can do whatever. You can do super surreal, like the guy who's holding up a plate saying it's a sausage maker. Again, age appropriate for 11 and up. It goes in the archive. That's the rule. I'm not here to filter things out that I like or don't like. I'm not a curator of that. The market will do that for us. Because everybody's meme goes in the archive and they're available as collectibles. So the ones that people like are probably going to sell out, and the ones that people don't like probably won't sell at all. And you guys do the pricing. So the creator of the meme says, okay, I want to sell all these editions for $5 a piece. I want to sell them all for $25 a piece. It's up to y'all. So that kind of buttons it up. I mean, yeah, the experience, you come into, right now we want people to come into our Discord server. We want them to fill out the Google form, whether or not they own a piece or not. Like that's immaterial. The Google form, fill out, they do their character calculator, and that process should take 15 minutes, but we do have to explain the game, so that can expand into an hour. But once people actually understand the game, it'll be more like well, I still don't get Dungeons and Dragons. You guys think my stuff's complicated. That's how I feel about Dungeons and Dragons. I look at that setup and I'm like, I don't know what's going on. Here, yeah, did I fill that out already or not? I remember doing part of it, but I don't remember if I finished it. Yeah, did you fill it out, or did we just do it on a call? Because I have all your details for Felix. In fact, I already have the bio generated and everything. Migsy just wanted to, he's getting used to how the wiki works, so he's trying to use the experience of adding your character, because that's his first character that he's adding to the wiki. Yeah, no, I think you're finished up. Now, oh, another great thing, guys. There's no guys here. I need to fix that language. I'm so sorry. The colloquialisms, millennial colloquialisms. Another thing would be this is really fun. You can actually go back in time with your character. Well, you wouldn't send me a proposition about Carrie. You'd send it to the guy who owns Carrie. I've got nothing to do with it. And also, like, always make sure your propositions are some additive to the cement, and not acid to the details. I do think I remember what you're talking about, though. That he might have been the one that stole. But see, that's his that's Rar's, that's his character. You know what I mean? So that's when we suggest conflicts and when we try to create impact with our character, it is limited to your character's perspective, if that makes sense. So I'm not going to try to put another character into a conflict or into a story beat, because that's not what I'm controlling. I can involve them. Like I can bring myself into a conflict with Carrie and accuse him. That's how you would do it. You'd come in with Felix and say, "Did you steal the cremazy off the?" Sorry, I can't even. I literally laugh my ass off every time I think about the story beat. But anyway, did you steal the crem? That's how you would set that up. So you don't necessarily force him to do into your story beat or into your Okay. Well, thank you, Kianga, and I appreciate it. This was about the time we were going to wrap up if we had all the characters here anyway. So we'll reset and we'll reschedule. And then we can probably just finish up the Prince Ugly stuff. But yeah, so just to button it up, Felix is going to say Carrie Strong stole the cremazy to start a food fight at the Crumb Corps food headquarters. I would, as the lore wrangler in a game, I'm saying that's probably a little bit too much impact on somebody else's character. You can absolutely make suggestions like that, but the overall suggestion is just too much impact for his character. The food fight at Crumb Core Food Headquarters, that's a lot of control that you're putting into his character. No, this is fine. This is why it's a great conversation. Nobody's ever guilty, and there's no such thing as a stupid question. So, if I ever sound like, like a gruff speaking in town or anything, I have that naturally, and I'm very sorry, very sorry. And then beyond that, like I want people to try to work with me on that because it's just I'm just talking. I don't know what I sound like until I hear it back, and if I sound like I'm short with people, it's not that at all. It's I'm in gnarly pain all the time. No, yeah, it's good. I'm trying to tone police myself. Tone explain. Yeah, your Prince Ugly shirt came today. Looks really great. It looks really, really fantastic. I do think, though, I mean, I can't really tell, but somehow the Philip the Bear shirt looks like it's higher resolution. But maybe maybe that's not true. But I'm very happy with both my Philip shirt and my Prince Ugly shirt. I'm gonna wear them all the time. Like going to LA on Wednesday, hopefully, if I can get some sit downs. And I will be wearing Crypto Bears merch the entire trip. So, that's actually, let me stop recording.